Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Taylor and I teach 3rd grade in Central California. I taught 1st grade for 2 years, and within that time I've had quite a few experiences with some wild ones. So I'm going to share with you a couple of my out-of-the-box strategies that have really helped me and my little wild ones in the classroom. Tip number 1. Invest in a couple little stress balls. This thing has worked wonders. From students who kind of have anger issues or just naturally more aggressive, to students that get really stressed out, to I even had a student with autism that this helped tremendously. But with this, I had a meeting with each individual student telling them why they are receiving this, when to use it, and why I think this will help them, and asking them if they think it'll help or if they want to give it a try, and just really having a talk with them, because I think above anything else, relationships is the most important thing. So having a talk with that student, letting them know like, hey, I'm realizing that we are struggling in this area. What can I do to help? I care about you, and so I would like to help. I think this might help. What do you think? Or what do you think will help? Just having a conversation with the child alone can work wonders, but there still might be a little physical thing that they need, and this is a wonderful case. So I didn't pass these all out at the same time to all the students who needed them. I kind of waited till it gradually grew to that time, and I had these meetings with them, so that way it just gradually happened. It wasn't like, you get a stress ball, you get a stress ball, you get a stress ball. No, it was definitely much more developed and individualized. So say I say, okay, student number 1, let's have a meeting, here you go, here's a stress ball. Whenever that student went to the bathroom, I'd say class meeting, and I would tell the class, listen, I have given student number 1 a stress ball. I think he's having a hard time right now, and so I really want to help him, and I think that this would help him. So please do not ask, where's my stress ball? I want one. Why does he get one? Because it's not about that. We have to work as a team. We are a family to try to help them. Because don't we want to be supportive and help? And 99% of the time, the kids get it. They love to feel that they're included and that they're helping their peers. So in my experience, this has always been extremely helpful. I even had one of my students with autism that had his little stress ball, and I had my meeting with him, I had my meeting with the rest of my class, and they got to the point where they were so helpful that they would see him. His thing before was rubbing his eyes, but it would make his poor eyes all red. So that's why we're trying to find different solutions to help him move away from this. And I was very surprised that the stress ball worked, because I know normally it needs to have a more physical kind of switch, but this worked, and the kids were a huge help, because anytime they saw this student going to rub his eyes, they would be like, oh, where's your star? And he would know to grab his little star stress ball. And before you knew it, it was a natural thing. He knew when to grab it as soon as it started to heighten up, or if he wasn't sure where it was, he'd automatically have a student there to help him like look for it. And it was just super cool to see how much the rest of the class cared, because they want their peers to do well. So it's just an overall really good team thing. Have a meeting with your student, discuss what this is and the rules. They're not to be playing with it, definitely not throwing it, and just all of that stuff. So discuss rules and consequences, but also talk to the rest of the class and inform them on what it is and why they're going to receive it, and not to ask for one. Yeah, so stress ball. There you go. Tip number 2. I had students who like to just roll on the floor, not paying attention to anything I'm saying or doing, and just in their own little world, but also distracting others. This was not okay. But it was to the point where it's like, they're either gonna be rolling around the floor, but they're quiet, versus, okay, but if I have them sit at their desk, maybe there's a chance that they might grasp a little something, but then they're upset that they're in their desk, so they're just being disruptive and like tapping and like making noises. So it's like, well, it's better. So with this student, it was near impossible to get them to sit in their desks for 2 minutes even. So they were on the floor, kind of rolling around, messing with things a lot. So I got a little stuffed animal friend. So it is not big, but it is soft. It has a couple different textures too, which is a big deal. And again, I had a meeting with the student. I talked to him about what I'm seeing as an issue, how he feels, what he thinks would help, and then I introduced this little guy. And we normally name it together, and I tell him that I would love him to be in charge of taking care of him. And this starts at the time that I feel that they can kind of handle, or a time that I want to start working at. So for example, this kid's gonna struggle with 2 minutes at his desk. I'm going to allow him to have 3 minutes that he can take care of this, but I will let him start on the floor where he's normally at. I want him to start in a comfortable place and then kind of work their way up to where we will build to where they're in their desk. I tell him the rules is he needs to stay in your hands or your lap. You cannot throw him up in the air. He doesn't like to be moved around a lot. He likes to be held nice and safe, or sat somewhere where he's nice and safe. Doesn't like a lot of movement, doesn't like a lot of loud noises. So he knows he can't be rolling around the floor with this guy. He can't throw him up in the air. He has to take special care of him, which normally means he's now just laying on the floor or just sitting on the floor taking care of this little pet, which is better than rolling around all over the place. So there's an improvement. He loves to learn and he likes it when it's quiet. I tell him that his job is he can hold it, he can set it on his lap, he can set it on the carpet next to him. Say he likes to be pet, so that way he knows he's in charge of taking care of this little guy for, let's say, 3 minutes. And then once he shows that he can handle that 3 minutes, it'll move up to like 4 minutes to 5 minutes, and then that's where we move to the desk. So then it turns to, hey, let's try sitting in our space now, because once he can kind of get up to about 5 minutes, then we're gonna move to the desk where you can still hold him, you can set him on the desk, but the same rules still apply. To where if you're tapping on your desk making noises, he's not gonna like it, so I'm gonna take him away. You are not talking to him, especially while I'm talking, and those kind of basic rules. But they feel in control, in charge, and that they have something to take care of. Also for movement, they can kind of squeeze them a little bit, they can pet him, they can feel the different textures, so you can see it's kind of like furry, but the wings are kind of textured. This was just by chance, it was not, I didn't get him because of that. This was actually a Valentine's present from like years ago, but I think it is beneficial. So get just some little sort of pet furry thing, preferably different textures that they can kind of play with, but I think a little friendly pet can go a long way. I noticed with them we had 5 minutes on the floor, which is a struggle to finally earn to where he had him the whole time. I did take him away frequently. We ended up making it to the 5 minutes to where then they transitioned to the desk. And so I didn't expect this little guy to just magically make him sit in his desk all day and just change everything, because that's not realistic. But if I could use this to have him focus for some main parts of some of my mini lessons, then massive improvement. So that was my goal. It was not give him a little furry guy and then he'll magically sit in his desk all day. No. But we ended up getting to 10 minutes with this on his desk during reading, another 10 minutes during math, and they got to hold him at silent reading times. So it was used multiple times a day, but it improved a lot. Super proud of him, and so yeah, definitely invest in some little furry guys. Number 3, if you want to step it up from the little furry guy and get a weighted furry guy, this helps so much. It can definitely be more distracting for the younger ones. It is weighted, and it actually has like some like lavender scent inside, which is more calming. This isn't necessarily the best for like in the classroom because they are more expensive and can be more distracting. This is more so if you're a mom and your child has like anxiety or high stress, insomnia, that sort of thing. I just feel like it's a little better suited for at-home use and not necessarily the classroom, unless you got a lot of extra money laying around and are free with these getting pretty germy. But yeah, so that is another option, but I'm not going super into detail with that because I haven't used it in my classroom. I actually just got it for Christmas, but I already see how big of a help it would be. What I do use in my classroom is something like this. So this is like a makeshift weighted belt. It is a Furry Sock Christmas edition, and all it has in it is popcorn. You can also use rice, sand, any kind of thing that has that texture. I put it in a plastic bag and then I roll it up kind of whichever way I want. So let's say I want it this way. And bam. So this is a perfect little lap belt. So this just sits right in their lap. It's a little bit weighted, but it does have the texture. If you have a different bag, it won't make as much noise. But it's got a little weight to it. And they can also kind of like play with the little seeds inside it. Not like, but like in their own personal space, can kind of like feel it a little bit and to feel the weight and feel more comfortable. I also like to use a furry sock. That way it kind of, again, adds another texture to it. A calming texture as well. This is my favorite because it's cheap. and it's like kind of fun, but you can also, you know your students. If they're gonna get too distracted by the fun little pattern on your sock, don't do it. Use a plain sock. You can switch it up every holiday. Whatever you feel is best, you do. They can put it on their lap. If you have a longer sock, they can kind of rest it around their shoulders, whatever they are kind of more comfortable with. This weighted belt is like a weighted blanket, which I've done some research on and really helps with anxiety. Lowering stress. It's really good for insomnia, but we're not really worried about that too much at the moment. So from the research that I gathered, it really helps with lowering the stress levels and kind of calming that fight or flight sense that peaks whenever you have anxiety. So it kind of weights it down, feels that relaxation. And the research I did, they described it kind of like the weight of a hug, like whenever you have that just slight pressure, and that's kind of what this does. It's not like a full-on weight, it's just enough to kind of, for your body to recognize some sort of comfort level. It also explained this being helpful with like a sensory overload type situation. It kind of provides that same calming sort of sensory for them, that they have like a little, because they have a focus point. They can focus on the weight and what it feels like. They can focus on the little seeds, whatever they need to do to kind of reduce that sensory overload. So in classrooms, that can be extremely important, because once that sensory overload kicks in, that's the anxiety, that's the stress, and most likely leads to a meltdown. So it can be extremely beneficial for those students. I had a couple students that had that anxiety, but like they just constantly had that like fight or flight going on. And this really helped. They would be able to go grab this, they could set it on their lap. They knew already not to play with it, because just like all the others, you have the meeting with them, explain what it's for, explain the rules and the consequences for it. And again, start with the time limit if you think that that's beneficial. If you think the student can handle having it in their desk and being able to take it out, or handle it like, okay, it's going to be in this specific area. If you need it, you may quietly go up and get it whenever you need it, and put it back whenever you don't, that sort of thing. Whatever system works for you, but make sure those rules, consequences, and procedures are set in place. They also explain that this can kind of promote the deep touch pressure stimulation, which actually releases serotonin in the brain, which has that calming effect and releases serotonin in the brain, which is the happy chemical. I think that's way more in depth than just like a weighted belt thing. I'm not sure about all this, and this is just what's worked for me, and this is the little background knowledge that I got on it. But from the research that I have done, I'll link some of the websites in the description down below. It says that research has shown that it's been very beneficial with students with autism or may have a sensory processing disorder. It explains how the weight makes students feel more calm, helps calm that fight or flight sense, and it really helps them focus more. So this one is by far my favorite. I feel like, well, also it has more research behind it than the others, but I feel like it is very beneficial and can be used for like a range of different things. So yeah, so that's definitely my top fave. So those are my 3 out-of-the-box strategies. If you liked it, please give me a big thumbs up. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. Comment, tell me which one's your favorite, and I'll see you next week. Bye guys.